So first of all, I would like to thank all of our audience who come today to attend this guest lecture. As you know, this guest lecture is a part of a project called Inspiring the Mind, when we try to find a mechanism in order to create interdisciplinary courses where the different stakeholders are engaged in the designing of the course. And we try to invite colleagues, experts from around the world in order to give us some thoughts about the topic, which is inclusivity in society and diversity in society. And today we have Lipika Verma from Schneider Electric. Lipika is currently has the role Vice President Rewards and Performance Innovation through the leadership at Schneider Electric. In this role, she is responsible for the overall reward strategy for the Schneider Electric globally, and leads the Center of Experts for Rewards and Performance function, and also contribute to the DEI well-being area as well. Her focus area would be strategic total rewards and performance, monitor industry trend, strategy developing reward solution, planning for multiple innovation, align with the organization focusing, and try to bring this strategic vision to the life. Prior to this position, she was the director reward for global supply chain and was part of Rewards global leadership team, where she provided rewards experts to leadership team of GSC. She engaged with terms across countries to align on GSC reward strategy, philosophy, performance culture, and organization policy. Early to that, she leads the rewards function for India and Pacific, and along that, she extremely important global strategic objective for well-being for Schneider Electric in India, where she contributed to the team and undertook a lot of new initiative under the banner of well-being. Prior to Schneider Electric, Lipika was working as Vice President Compensation and Benefit for GE Capital. In this role, she was responsible for driving the compensation philosophy across GE Capital through various initiatives, along with other interventions like evaluation, designing variable pay practical for GE India. Prior to this position at the GE, she was head compensation and benefit for Nokia India. She has led various talent management initiatives for Nokia globally. Apart from getting involved in various M&A activity, she was instrumental in setting up the Global Share Service Center for Nokia in India. She worked as a human resource business partner supporting Nokia top leadership team. During her career, Lipika has received multiple awards at national and international level in area of rewards and well-being. She has conferred with a Global Compensation and Benefit Leader Award in 2017. She has been conferred the top 23 on 2023 for a woman in India. Lipika actually converted the Transformation Leadership Certificate from INC in Paris. It's very interesting to see her education background, because Lipika has a bachelor degree in physics and master. So we are speaking on science or natural science, but also a master degree in human resources. So giving this long career, this deep experience in different stakeholders, I think today we are with a guest speaker who will give us a deep insight on the topic, which will be really benefit to our course and for our audience here. So please, Lipika, the floor is for you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tamer and Katerina, for inviting me over here for this lecture and thanks to all of you who've taken out time from your busy schedules to attend this lecture, and also to those who will be probably watching the recording of this lecture in future. So, thanks again, and thanks for the opportunity. We wanted to go ahead with a conversation on inclusion and pay equity, which is something very topical in today's world. And I think it's extremely important and pertinent as a topic across the entire value chain. And for all of us as professionals and as students and as human beings, it's important that we go ahead and understand these two areas in much deeper details. But before I get there and start talking about the entire topic, let me just play a small video just to introduce the organization. And I think it's important for you to know which company I'm working for so that it's easier to relate to what all we do. So over here, let me just play a very quick video which talks about Schneider Electric.
The world is full of people telling you who to believe they are. Well, we thought we'd tell you who we're not. Let's start here. We're not in shipping. We don't make lifts. Seriously, no lifts. We do this. We're good at this. And we make all of these. And even though you'll find us here and here, we don't make energy. We make you save it. And you'll be saving the environment too. Are we an internet company? Well, we connect and power just about everything around you, helping machines talk to each other and to you, making your world more personal. We're seeking out the big questions and answering them honestly. Like, how can we make the most of our energy and resources? Or can we make access to energy and digital basic human rights? We're real people, employees, developers, partners, investors, and inventors, all passionate about doing what's right. We're open. Humans of all sorts from all over, learning from each other and about each other. We're not here to save the world. It'll go on with or without us. We're here to be your digital partner for sustainability and efficiency, to ensure life is on everywhere, for everyone, at every moment. The world is...
So that's about Schneider at large, and just
the world is full.
That's about Schneider Electric at large, and just to kind of talk a little bit more in terms of what we are into in terms of our revenues overall. We are a global organization with close to almost 34 billion euro revenue, which is the figure for 2022. We operate across 100 plus countries and have close to 135,000 employees across the globe. It's a very well-balanced global presence that we have, and also in terms of the hub philosophy that we follow. We have different areas where we have a hub presence, be it in Paris or Hong Kong or Boston or Bangalore. These are four of our major hubs, and therefore there is a very balanced way of how things are linked, how the leaders are present, and how we manage our entire business. So that's a little bit about Schneider, and it's important that I talk about it, and therefore easier to relate to what we all do as an organization. So coming to the topic of why does inclusion and pay equity actually matter, it's something that I wanted to start, which is a very, very provocative, report which has come in from the World Economic Forum. This is a report which got released in July 2022, which talks about the fact that gender parity is just not recovering. And at the current rate, at the rate where we are going ahead with, it may take almost 132 years to close the global gender pay gap or the global gender gap. And this is a pretty scary figure. It's a very harsh figure to even look at it. And therefore, I think it's imperative for all of us as human beings to really see what is it that we can do in our own capacity to make sure that we are able to bridge the gap. We are able to educate people. We are able to share that awareness with others. And this can happen, from the grassroots level when, people are young, when they are in school. And also the organizations at a global level, they're doing a lot in terms of ensuring that we close the gender gap. And the idea is to make sure that we do something at our end in our own capacity to make sure we lead and close the gap as we move forward. So with that very, very strong report which came in, what I wanted to cover today is a little bit in terms of inclusion in the workplace. What does it mean? What is the importance of an inclusive workplace culture? What do we do around inclusion at Schneider Electric? And then also cover what is pay equity, why is it so important, and our journey on pay equity for Schneider Electric. So these are some of the topics I'm going to cover, and towards the last 20 minutes roughly, I'll try and leave the floor for question and answer, and I would request the participants over here to come across with their own queries or with their own comments and questions. So if you look at inclusion in the workplace, and this is as per a recent Deloitte survey, it says that 80% of employees consider inclusion as an essential factor when they are actually looking at choosing an employer, and really figuring out whether the organization they're planning to join has a truly inclusive workplace culture or no. So this is a high figure, which means employees are looking at it, and therefore all of us as organizational executives, we need to ensure that we provide an inclusive place or a workplace for all our employees, our potential employees, our own employees, and therefore follow the attraction, motivation, and retention for the employees and the talents that we have within the company. Now, if you look at what does it mean, and the right chart actually talks about the details given by Mercer, and it's available freely on net. But what it really means is how people across varying identities, they feel respected, they feel included, do they feel valued and welcomed at the organization? How can they contribute towards the collective objective of the company and have a voice or have a say in the overall scheme of things? Inclusive efforts at the workplace also helps us to really make sure that we give our traditionally marginalized groups, people with elements around gender, race, or disabilities, a means for them to feel very, very equal at the workplace. And also the fact that inclusion in the workplace is all about understanding, respecting, making sure everyone's voices and opinions are heard, and they feel respected in the organization, maybe in terms of the different ways they are joining, whether it's from a different background, from a different family status, gender, disability, so on and so forth. So I think the idea is to make sure we create a workplace which really covers inclusion, and everyone feels safe and psychologically safe to contribute to their own ideas, to their own voice. Moving on around some of the other importance of an inclusive workplace culture and why are companies, doing so much in this space. And the research from management institutes actually talks about the fact that the companies which have an inclusive culture and a diverse workplace, they are actually likely to meet or exceed financial targets by 2x times. They are likely to have, high performing culture almost by 3x times. And people who are working in such inclusive environments are likely to be 6x times more innovative, more agile. And not to forget that the diversity, as per the research, diversity and inclusion actually helps in enhancing the business outcomes in terms of profitability and things like that. It also kind of creates a sense of belongingness amongst the co-workers, and that has direct linkage to productivity. It has linkage to innovation. It has linkage to better decisions. We all know that performance creates well-being and well-being generates performance. So if someone has a good environment in the company, the person will perform at the best, which also helps in creating a well-being culture in the company. And then if there is a lot of well-being in the minds of the employees, it also helps in enhancing the overall productivity and performance of the company. So all these things are pretty much linked, and therefore, in order to have a healthy work environment, in order to enhance the employee engagement, which has direct linkage to performance, it's imperative that companies do a lot in the space of inclusion and equity, and be more profitable, be more, be more inclusive, as well as make sure that they are doing their part to make a business outcome much better as compared to what they had. Now, coming to our own Schneider Electric's inclusion and care by design strategy, what we say is that we are a people-centric organization, and we want to be the most inclusive and caring company in the world. And it's not a simple statement to make. We want to be amongst the most caring and inclusive companies. It's a big, big target that we have taken in front of us. And when we say inclusion and care by design, what does it really mean? It means well-being, which I just mentioned. It means how do we create that respect for people? How do we provide that psychological safety? How does all this intertwine with gender identities, generational gap, multi-generational workforce, all kinds of disabilities? How do we make sure that people are at a level playing field? And therefore, from a strategy standpoint, we look at these three elements around thriving individuals, open organization, and diverse teams at every level. If you look at thriving individuals, what we want to ensure is that each and every individual in the company really feels respected and safe to be their unique self. We are also making sure that the leaders, they actually coach and care with respect. All the people managers get trained on the fact how do they create a more inclusive culture through different ways of enhancing their engagement, through different ways of creating that awareness. That's something which we really want to ensure as part of thriving individuals lever. The second one is around diverse teams at every level, and this is around hardwiring equity and inclusion at all stages of employee experience. So whenever we are creating processes, or whenever we are creating these platforms or any kind of program, how do we hardwire equity and inclusion? And that's a big piece. So when we are thinking of looking at coming up with a program, we have to keep it in mind that we have to look at equity, we have to look at inclusion. And that's a big statement to make, wherein we are ensuring fairness in people, processes, policies. We are also fostering a culture of care and inclusion at all levels. And when I take you through the next couple of slides, I'll tell you where we are focused a lot in terms of care and inclusion. In terms of the third lever, which is around open organization, we want to really drive a change within the broader ecosystem and society at large through a lot of advocacy and role modeling. And we also work at Schneider with a lot of external strategic partners, our suppliers, and how do we even ensure that we are addressing more of ecosystem. It's not only Schneider where we want to do these things, but can we even influence our strategic partners and suppliers to make sure they build an inclusive culture, because if they win, we will also win. So that's the approach with which we are working. So while we are looking at inclusion and care by design across all our processes, we also need to understand how do we get there. So while the what is important, how is also equally important. And therefore, how do we demonstrate it in our behaviors? How can we lead with respect and extend that trust? And that's very important for us, being respectful, making sure that we trust our colleagues, making sure we trust our teams. All that will show in our behavior, and that's something which we are very, very cognizant about. Alongside living our EVP, our core values and leadership expectations. So when you look at our core values, we have a lot around customer first, embracing different, acting like owners, and all these are things that we expect each and every employee to follow. Along with this, leaders are expected to have leadership expectations, which is all around care for the employee, building the best team, making sure about the well-being of the people and things like that. Also, we want to demonstrate empathy, care, and openness in whatever we do as Schneider. So those are things where it's not only in terms of what we are trying to do, but also in terms of how do we behave, how do we actually demonstrate all these in terms of the behaviors that we demonstrate for our own employees, as well as leaders, what do we actually demonstrate from a behavioral standpoint. So when we look at our employee value proposition, we talk about meaningful, empowered, and inclusive. And when it comes to meaningful, I think all of us actually work towards, our entire mission around sustainability and energy, and energy efficiency. And that's something where all the employees kind of genuinely relate to it, because it's all around sustainability. It's all around creating a future world for our next generations, where we want to make things sustainable and environmental friendly. And how do we really do energy efficiency and energy management? From an innovation standpoint, we believe that empowerment generates high performance, personal fulfillment, and fun. And how do you provide that as a company? Last but not the least, from an inclusive standpoint, we want, as I rightly said earlier, we want to be the most diverse, inclusive, and equitable company in the world globally, where we value differences and we are also able to adapt to people coming from different walks of life and ensure that we're able to provide them an equal level playing field, equal opportunities for everyone across every location. Some of the global inclusive policies that I wanted to talk about is around the global flexibility at work policy, where in order to be more inclusive, we have come up with a work from home policy. And, all of us are aware, many companies have done it in terms of hybrid workforce. We also did it. We are even doing it for our distribution center employees as well as our plant employees. The number of days is different. They have 1 day while the other employees have 2 days a week. But that's something where we have tried coming up with it, and it's being exactly followed across the globe, irrespective of the country that you belong to. And that has helped us to really, trust the group culture, help us to be more inclusive, giving more empowerment to managers to take those decisions. Something which is very, very close to my heart is global family leave policy. And just to talk about it and how is it more inclusive, maybe I can take a little bit more time on this one, where the policy supports all employees globally with their personal time at critical stages of their lives, so that they're able to manage their unique life and they can perform at their best. So global family leave policy came up early in 2017, where we launched the global family leave policy. It was around parental care leave and bereavement leave. We introduced bereavement leave in case of demise in the family. However, when we went through the pandemic and we went through the COVID situation over the last few years, we realized that we needed to do more. And therefore, we made it much more inclusive, much more enhanced from a caring standpoint. And this is one area where we have done a lot in terms of being called out as a caring organization. Now, what we did and what has got launched effective 1st of January 2023 is our global family leave policy, which covers 3 types of leaves. It's parental leave, it's care leave, and bereavement leave. What is noteworthy over here is that a lot of countries where there is no legal legislation to really demarcate certain specific weeks for primary parent or secondary parent, this was a huge change. And you can imagine there is a huge cost impact on the organization if you're introducing something like 4 weeks of secondary parent leave. Earlier, we used to talk about maternity leave or paternity leave. Now, what we're talking about is a paid leave for primary parent and secondary parent, again, being very inclusive. It is a gender agnostic policy. So even, let's say, in case of a father taking care of the newly born baby, we can actually give a 20 weeks paid leave for the primary parent, because the father in this case actually says that he is the primary caretaker for the child. and therefore keeping it gender agnostic, keeping it open for LGBTI community, keeping it open for people who adopt children. I think this was a big move for us. Instead of calling it maternity, paternity, we are calling it primary and secondary leave, plus ensuring that 4 weeks of secondary parent leave is given even to a plant worker, where it is, as you can imagine, very difficult to get someone else to do the job when the person is on leave for 4 weeks. But that's a big step that we have taken as an organization, and I think it's superbly progressive, and that has helped to really move the needle in the direction of inclusion. The second policy that we released was around care, wherein we are calling a sick leave as a care leave, where we are not limiting it to the employee himself or herself, but we are actually opening it up for family and extended family. So the way the employee will describe a family is depending on the cultural nuance of that country. And therefore, we have used a global plus local approach where the employee actually says, okay, this is my family. This is how I define my immediate family. In certain countries, we have even let care leave be given to pets, for example, because in certain cultures, you don't have children, but they have pets, and not one pet, but probably 2 pets, 3 pets. So we are even opening all that for pet, because when you take care of your pet, who is as important as a child, all these things are of extreme importance. So opening it up for care leave and really defining what a family for an individual means, because for every individual, family's meaning is very different. And then bereavement leave in case of demise in the family, that's something where we introduce. So this has become something which has been liked by employees. I think there's been extreme positive response to this, especially in certain countries like US, for example, where there is no concept of legislative regulation around these leaves. It has come in a big way, and yes, it's a big step for the organization, because we have gone an extra mile on this. The next one is around global anti-harassment policies, and here we are ensuring that the roles of and responsibilities of employees, managers, and all that is very clear. Different reporting channels are available to report concerns, and so on and so forth. And it lays out the type of corrective or disciplinary action which can be taken in case of any kind of a behavior which is not right. And people are free to report in such incidents. How we do it is, again, through e-learning, through making sure we spread awareness and all of it. And there are trainings that we get the managers to undergo when it comes to overcoming hidden bias, when it comes to building a culture of respect. Additionally, there are also employee resource networks, and these can be at a local level, these can be at a global level, where the groups can include, women professionals, emerging professionals, LGBT plus, people with disabilities, allies network, and all that. So I think a lot is being driven at a global level with a flexibility to the countries to deploy something which they can do in their own countries, depending on the cultural nuances. So with that, I think what I really wanted to share is it has been a journey, and I think we will continue to move on that journey. And while we are doing all these things as an organization, we've also been featuring as, high in terms of, let's say, Bloomberg Gender Equality Index. We have been there for over the last 5 years in terms of being called out as one of the most diverse and inclusive organizations. And there are a number of awards and recognitions through World Economic Forum, through Bloomberg, through, Catalyst Award, and through the Great Places to Work. So a lot of recognition has come, and still we have a lot of, paths to cross, a lot of things to be done. And as I said, it's a journey for us to move forward. Moving on to the second part of the lecture today, which is around pay equity. Again, this is something which is of prime importance, and it's a key piece of our DEI strategy. And as a responsible and caring employer, we need to ensure that we actually pay the right thing to right people and equal pay for equal work, and really act as a responsible organization. When you look at a total rewards portfolio, it's all around, the piece of salary, long-term incentive, short-term incentive, base salary, and then of course benefits are there. I spoke about work environment, which is around the entire meaningful, inclusive, and empowered organization. But on the personal growth side, I think it's important to understand how much flexibility we are giving to employees. What's the training and development that they are going to go through? What's the international mobility opportunities they have? How do we actually look at creating a work which is a meaningful work? And then pay equity, again, is superbly important when we look at this space. Now, just to kind of get into some of the basics, what do we mean by pay equity? And it's just the fairness in compensation earned by all employees, which means equal pay for equal work. And it is not only in terms of compensation, but it is in terms of comp, it's employee benefits, and even opportunities for enhancement. And how do we make Schneider a pay equitable organization is something which we are driving, and there is a whole target around it, which I'll speak through in the next couple of slides. What it is not is it doesn't mean we pay all the employees the same. It doesn't mean that. Also, it doesn't mean that a person in Europe will get paid the same way how the person is getting paid in, let's say, US or in Asia Pacific. It doesn't mean that. So there will be differences basis geographic location, skills, experience, education, and all that. But what we are trying to do over here is making sure that we pay equally for equal work. Now, for Schneider, it is a strong commitment that we have made to pay equity ambition. It's all around sustainability. It's all around how do we want to attract and retain people in the company? How do we do the external trends and emerging practices? And what is it that we have in terms of our people vision? So here, one of the things which we look at holistically is it's a combined focus, both from rewards as well as DEI side. And that helps in really creating a high performing organization and one of the best in class organization, so to say. And therefore, how do we move forward in that sense? How do we make sure that we are able to attract, motivate, and retain talent within Schneider? So just in a nutshell, what is pay equity all about in Schneider? We want to be, as I said, most inclusive and caring company in the world by providing equal opportunities to everyone, everywhere, and to ensure that all the employees feel uniquely valued and safe to contribute to the best. And from a reward side, our ambition is to be really fair and equitable in our reward practices. How do we reward everyone for the skill set that they possess? How do we value their contribution on an equal basis? And the overall ambition that we have is huge for us. What we are saying is we want to attain and maintain a pay gap of less than 1% by 2025 for both males and females. So what it means is if females are at lower salary as compared to males, we will bridge that gap and make it equitable. If males in certain countries are at a lower salary as compared to females, we will bridge that gap as well. So it is gender agnostic. It is not that we only kind of cater to female pay gap. It works both ways. So we are ensuring that on a gender-wise basis, we are equitable and we want to attain less than 1% pay gap by 2025, which is not a simple ambition by any means. It takes a huge effort to even move by decimal points. And, we have started this journey in 2015. In 2023, we have bridged the gap, but we are still not there. And that's a big ambition that I'm actually trying to drive personally within Schneider Electric. Now, as I said, it is an equitable world that we are trying to create. We started our journey in 2015. We are progressing in 2020. We are close to almost minus 1.6. But the pay gap is something that has to be bridged through a number of efforts. And it is a consistent effort by the company, by the managers, by our rewards team, by our leaders to make sure we move in that journey. how do we really create, how do we actually use the methodology, and what are those talent processes which creates or impacts the pay gap? So if you look at the methodology, what we look at is the individual total target compensation divided by median of all employee TTC of driver -1. So it's a very specific formula, and a whole lot of calculation happens in that. But what is important to note is the three processes around new hires, salary review, and promotion are the ones where we actually end up creating a gap. So more often than not, when you're recruiting people, we try and recruit them at a minimum salary, or we try and recruit them by giving them a certain percentage over what they were getting in the last organization, which is not the right thing to do. What we need to do is, if the person is getting hired from another organization and maybe at a lesser salary, even if it means giving a very high jump to the person on the compensation, we should make sure that we hire them right in the first place. Otherwise, you are creating the gap at the time of hiring itself, which is not right. Second is, when salary review happens, there's a lot of unconscious bias in the minds of the managers. They will not probably give the same amount of increase to a female colleague of theirs, or at times people are just a little bit hesitant if the female employee in their team has taken a little bit of flexibility, or at times there is some bit of an unconscious bias, which we want to remove. Even that is seen during times of promotion, where the data suggests across companies, I would say that during the time of promotion, there is a little bit of a gap which gets created on pay between genders. And gender is something that we're taking right now. I think going forward, there will be other parameters also which needs to come into place, things like performance, things like time in the role and things like that. But, we have to take these baby steps in terms of making sure that we proceed in terms of our pay equity journey. How we do it is through a process where we have an integrated digital HR process on global system. When we run the global salary review, we try and make it as part of that integrated process. We try and educate and train a lot of people in terms of process and policy education, making sure that we increase the awareness for all decision makers. Analytics and reporting is very important, and therefore we are even developing a tool which will help managers take a right decision at the time of hiring or promoting, or even it will help the talent acquisition team to take an informed decision at the time of hiring or promoting and things like that. And then, of course, the global team leads the governance at a regional and a global level. So this is more like a framework for us to make sure that we work on our journey around the pay equity. Some of the actions and highlights is ensuring that we keep educating, keep training our people, our managers, our HR teams, our entire set of people who are involved in these decision makings on pay equity, so that we don't create the gap in the first place. Analytics and reporting is very, very important because these are global initiatives that we are actually driving, and therefore it's important to understand how are we looking at the data at different points in time. And for that, technology is going to support us, and it's very important. Advocacy in terms of partnership with global and local on equity, through different communications. In fact, we actually in the UN Global Compact, Schneider is represented along with other companies like L'Oreal or Unilever's, and few more, even in terms of pay equity, where there's a lot of work which is happening. We do plan to do a lot in the going forward time around ensuring that we are able to bridge the gap, and then probably create a culture of how we can bring in equity in the long run. Moving on, I think just that when you look at our global inclusive policies that are key to attraction and retention on a global talent market, these are 4 things which have been extremely important for us. Pay equity, as I said, it covers almost 100% of the population today. While we launched it in 2015, we were able to cover only part of the countries, not the entire global population. Slowly, steadily, we have now reached where there is a coverage of close to 100%. And we are also looking beyond gender right now. Flexibility at work, as I explained, we launched in 2017, and then of course, hybrid workforce, which has come in January 2021. Family leave policy, which I explained in detail, that's a big win for us. And then anti-harassment policy. So I think all these inclusive policies are key to attraction and retention on the global talent market. And it's important that we understand where we need to take additional steps or where we need to come up with interventions to make sure we are much more equitable as well as inclusive in the long run. Again, with all the efforts which have been made over the last few years on these topics, very happy to share that we got recognized as a Global Parity Alliance DEI Lighthouse by the World Economic Forum in January 2023. And this is all around the work that we have done on pay equity, because as you can understand, it's a whole lot of detailed work over a consistent period of time, which has actually led us to where we are today in terms of an organization where we can proudly say that there is parity that we are trying to bring in. And with that, maybe I would just want to close by saying that, when we are taking these decisions in terms of what is the policy, what is the framework that we have, how do we take a decision as a manager? How do we take a decision as a leader in the organization? It's important that we keep all these things pretty much in mind and take an informed decision. And the initial figure that I spoke about in terms of 132 years, it's very disturbing. It is something which is very stark. And I would just want to close it by saying that unless and until each one of us actually is aware about what inclusion, equity, diversity is all about, unless and until we do few things in our own capacity or in our own responsibility, as such, it will be difficult to really move the needle in the right direction. And therefore, the call out for all of us who are listening to this lecture is to really make sure that we take the right decision, because every decision counts in the long run. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to open it up for question and answers.
Thanks a lot, Lipika, for this very interesting brainstorming lecture. I think there is a lot of things to discuss, to follow up. But maybe I just start with something, and then I see in the chat there is 2 questions, and myself I have a question by the end. But I would like to link what you are doing now with the global movement that started here from Europe about the EU taxonomy. So as you know, EU taxonomy will be applied within the coming few years, and it will put sort of restriction on investor and companies to contribute to this taxonomy. And one of the 6 parameters in this taxonomy is the inclusive in workspace. So I think what you are presenting today is a module. Hopefully, other companies, small or large company, can get in order to survive from this application of the EU taxonomy. So this is just as a general comment, just to make the people aware of the importance of your lecture. It's not just a lecture to highlight it's important, but it actually has real implications. It has real application, and hopefully maybe other people who are people who would like to start business or already working with business sector, maybe they can get some ideas from your lecture in order to apply into their business model. There is 2 questions in the chat, and I hope that other colleagues here start to think and try to put some question. But one of these questions is about how small companies, and I would like to add to this, how small companies and even large companies can provide their employee with such level of support. The guy mean financial point of view. So sometime, if you would like to give to someone 20 months of parental leave, this is sort of a load, financial load on the company. So how do you think that companies can do something like this?
Sure. So I think it is multifold. One is when you're kind of planning out these policies, it needs to be affordable by the organization. So therefore, when you're planning out as an HR team, it needs to go through a whole round of discussions, and the cost simulations have to be done and things like that, because as you rightly pointed out, Tamir, it's a huge burden on the organization from a financial standpoint. But again, the rationale is that where do you want to go in the long run? Are you wanting to really attract, retain, and motivate your talent, or are you just wanting to do business with not the talents over there, but with a generic set of people? And if you're not able to attract good people to the company, are you in a position to achieve what you're aspiring for? So we really have to make our organizations a better place for work. For that, there is an investment. Now, this investment can be thought through. Do you want to do it for the entire globe in a single go, or do you want to space it out depending on the affordability of that country, and therefore a global plus local approach? But I think there is no clear answer to this. We have to do it. We have to ensure that we're able to attract the best talent from the market, for which you need to make sure that it is a best place to work. It is a company where people would like to join. Looking from the chat in terms of the question where the person has asked, Emmanuel, I think, has asked saying, with such level of support mean from a financial point of view? I think it is also part of well-being. And when you look at well-being in terms of its dimensions, we talk about physical well-being, we talk about mental, social, emotional, and financial well-being. And many companies are doing a lot of work in the area of financial well-being, because employees do need that support across different countries. And that support is being built through different ways and means. There are organizations which can offer some kind of an advance payment against the salary, or there are companies through which there are tie-ups who can probably give a loan, an advance or a loan to this employee, and then that can be deducted from the salary over a period of time. So there are ways and means of looking at those financial support mechanisms. And that is something where financial well-being as one of the dimensions of well-being is an important part, and that is being looked at by different companies at this stage.
Actually, I would like to highlight here, Lipika, from your answer, that companies maybe see this movement, to support this equity as a financial loss, because you would like to give more money. But you highlighted actually not its sort of selling point of the company. When you start to do so, you say that our working environment is great. And by this way, you will fish the talent from the market. You will fish the people who really can push the company forward. So actually, I think it's good the people or the businessmen who own companies start to look at this not as something you spend more, but it's selling point of the company. You are trying to recruit the best from the market using this selling point.
And not only, I mean, you covered it well, but additionally, even in order to retain people, you need a good organization, right? Because we all know that if you're replacing an employee, the cost is much more larger, and there is an impact on the business. There is a lead time which you actually end up losing, because you're going ahead and trying to hire a replacement, where the company loses its time, and therefore, while it is not a direct calculation that you can do, but then there is an impact on the overall financial of the organization, because there is a replacement cost, there is a time that you lose. And therefore, if you look at it holistically from an attraction, retention, and motivation perspective, it's important that we provide people the flexibility, provide an inclusive culture in the long run, so that it is meaningful for the business.
Yep, I completely agree. There's another, yeah, please.
Question on what role do you think pay transparency has in realizing the positive benefits of pay equity? I think it's a great question, Roddy Taylor. I think it's very, very important, and the entire world is moving towards pay transparency, right? I mean, in the US, if you look at the legislations, there are almost 30 states today, which really talks about the fact that you need to declare your compensation or the salary ranges when you're hiring people. Similarly, the European Union has come up with a legislation last year saying, but in the next 3 years, organizations will have to declare. So there is no two ways about pay transparency. That's the direction the world is moving towards. And it's very important for an employee to understand where he or she is in the overall scheme of things. This also helps in building that trust for an employee, for the organization, saying, okay, where I am pegged today is quite good, or I am being paid competitively for the role that I'm doing for the company. So it is very important. Now, ways and means of being transparent about pay is slightly different in different companies. And here we do talk about, at least for Schneider, that we are trying to be pay equitable, which means that each and every employee across the organization is going to be pay equitable. And that's something that we talk about openly. But it is an area which is going to be extremely important as we move forward. Pay transparency is going to be there either through legislation, or some of the companies have already done it. I worked for a company almost 15 years back, which was very, very transparent in terms of indicating where the person lied in terms of a salary range. So to that extent, some companies had it, some are doing it today, some will be forced to do it if they haven't done it so far. So that's the long-term view on pay transparency.
Katrina actually has a challenge question. So she asked about the measure that Schneider Electric take to measure the woman progress in their career as fast as men. And what's your general recommendation in general? Because, you know, this is one of the main challenge in this field, like try to provide women with some tools to progress and to be equally to the men. And also how we can measure this, how we can have like sort of indicator for it.
I think there is no difference that we see within Schneider, whether you are a male employee or a female employee or employee with disability or whatever. There is a very standard protocol in terms of a role change. We do believe in an open talent market, and there is a platform where every position gets opened and you can kind of apply for it, and then there is a genuine evaluation which happens. So I think on one hand, the organization is providing that opportunity openly for each and every employee within the company to make sure they look at what is available, how does it match to their skill sets, and how do they take it forward and apply for those roles. On the other side, there is also a lot of training and education that we are doing against unconscious bias, against hidden bias, and things like that. The third thing I would say is that we propagate the fact that you should be responsible for your own career as much as the manager is. And therefore, if there is an opportunity that a female employee sees in the company, if she has interest in it, she should raise her hand for that role, is what we expect women professionals to do. Because if we are not able to communicate that effectively to the manager or to the HR business partner who supports, we as a company would not know what is going on in the mind of that employee. So it's equally important that while we provide that platform to the employees to apply for different positions which are getting advertised, it is also equally important for the employee to raise the hand and say, okay, I'm interested in that role. it's not necessarily that the person will get that role, but at least the person would get a feedback saying, okay, you are today not ready. Why don't you add on these skills? And probably 2 years down the line, you will be ready for a job similar to that. Or these are your development areas. Can you enhance on those? Or these are the skills which you need to add on. So kindly reskill and then probably apply for a role. There are other opportunities also where a person can probably do a short project similar to the role that the person is wanting to get into. So I think there is this ample opportunity to make sure that we don't differentiate in terms of our employees. And that is what inclusive culture is all about. I hope I answered your question, Katerina.
Yep.
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, I have another question. I didn't see any others, so sorry for taking this.
I have a small comment, Katrina, for this answer,
Okay.
and then maybe your question. You highlighted a point which I normally try to highlight to my colleagues, raising your voice. This is not only for women, but also for men. So anyone would like to have a position, just go to your boss or the manager of this position and say, I would like to have it. And then once you get the feedback, it can be positive feedback. Yeah, we will consider you, or no, we can't consider you because you are missing this skill. So this is not only for women. I think this advice only goes for both gender.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess last question from my side, but I'm really wondering, towards the beginning of your talk, Lipika, you did mention there are a couple of areas, to make a workplace really inclusive, whether that's from a gender, age, different backgrounds perspective. So I'm wondering if any of these areas comes for Schneider Electric as more challenging than the others, if that's even something you can compare.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be kind of different for different organizations. For us, it's a multi-generational workforce that we are catering to. And as much as we want to give weightage to our young talents, there is a lot of expertise that we have for our senior talents as well. And how do you manage different diversities from an age standpoint, along with the cultural nuances, along with the way that you're spread across 100 countries. And therefore, looking at this entire plethora of age as such in terms of multi-generations, and then the multicultural, how do you still manage a balanced and an inclusive workforce? So there is no easy answer to it, but we do struggle at times. And there's a lot of things where we try and fail, and then again we do something new and try and succeed. That's what the mantra is. So I guess we should come up with those interventions which we think would work well. We try it out and be successful, or if there are some tweaks needed for it, we do that and then become successful. But I think overall, just to close, and we are on time, I think overall mantra would be to really make sure that all of us do things in our own capacity to make this world a much more inclusive place. And at the same time, keep doing small interventions in whichever area of work we are in, and keep trying out new things. And a lot of feedback from employees or people at large also helps us to plan things or plan programs, which actually helps the organization to be much more equitable as well as inclusive.
If you allow me, Lipika, for 5 minutes more, because I can see a comment from Amina in the chat, and myself, I have like very two short question for you. It's a comment from Amina. I think Amina is a lady from North Africa or so. And she's saying that it's comment on my comment that it's not simple to go to your boss and say, I would like to have this position. But my answer to Amina, it's simple. It's not will not harm you. If you are doing very well, the boss will not kick you off out of the company and say, no, we don't want you. The thing that can affect you, he or she would say, no, sorry, we will not be able to overuse this position. But otherwise, I don't think he will, speaking loudly, will harm you in this consequence. There is one comment more.
Yeah, I can actually
Yep.
just talk to mine because it's relevant to this conversation as well. So I think I do completely understand and agree with this the concept of sort of like the open market for different positions, for promotions, roles, whatever it might be. But I think there's also sort of considerable data that shows that some groups, some demographic groups are less likely to put their hands up. So I was just wondering if there's anything which you've seen, whether it's at Schneider or elsewhere, that has been successful in supporting those groups who are less likely to put their hands up to sort of be able to access those opportunities beyond the fact that it is sort of simply open for all.
Yeah. Good question again. I think it is a combination of a regular dialogue with the manager, because the person should be in a position to at least talk about it with the immediate manager. So how do we provide those opportunities? Can it be a regular mechanism, let's say twice a year, to have that career dialogue with the manager? So that's one. And second is, I think what we are doing, or what I would think is a much more enhanced awareness and education around this point through a global initiative as well as local initiative. We do talk about something like Career Week within Schneider, where for 1 week globally, we celebrate a Career Week, which means for, let's say, if I am in France, France will be kind of communicating a lot of opportunities which are available for employees. So people are expected to attend those sessions and figure out, how to best approach for a position in that particular group or field. So in the Career Week, there are opportunities where people can learn more, understand more, and still talk to their HR business partners or talk to their managers for the next opportunity. So one, I think, to connect with the manager on a regular basis. And second, I think it is through spreading a lot of awareness and education on the available opportunities, and really pushing people to make sure that they say what they want to do from a future role standpoint.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much.
I have a last question for you, Lipika, actually, to connect your introduction part of your talk with the conclusion. In the introduction section of your talk, you said that it's a challenge and we need several tens of years in order to make equality in working environment in general, in society. And during the lecture, you start to put some mechanisms. You give examples of how Schneider Electric are working to improve the situation. If I return back to the main challenge at the beginning of your talk, how many years, if we start to apply these mechanisms in global wide, do you think how many years in order to achieve that? Is it still many?
Difficult question. I cannot calculate it and tell you the answer, but what I feel is, at a global level, what World Economic Forum was talking about is more around gender equality at an overall level. Now, what organizations are doing today is just adding to the efforts in terms of bringing a much more, gender balanced society, a much more equitable society. However, as I said, it's not only corporates which can do it, or organizations which can do it. It has to be at grassroots level. It has to be across all population, across all countries. And therefore, we were talking informally at the start of the session, Tamer, where I think it has to be done at the grassroots level. The education awareness needs to start at the school level when kids are small. And therefore, really building that world where we are talking diversity, equity, and inclusion right from that stage, so that when children grow up, they grow as responsible individuals, and therefore in their own individual capacities, they do the right thing. And that will be good to really curb the number of years that we spoke about from the report which came out. So it's not something which is very simple, and it's not something which we can calculate with the specific population of the organization taking those efforts, but it's a huge amount and a mammoth activity and a mammoth effort from each and every one of us.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I didn't expect this answer from you, especially the last statement, because actually I would like to highlight again the last statement that you said, that it's a huge over and start with education. And this is actually the core objective of the Inspiring the Mind, which is the project that hosts this lecture, is about education. So we are aimed to build, hopefully with help and support from people like you, people who has experience, not in the education sector, but in business or NGO, working with society, to help us to build an education courses, education system programs that can inspire the student, that can help the student to think outside the box, that can make this society as an inclusive society. So thank you very much for this. I see there is maybe one last comment in the chat. Actually, Karen says thank you for this interesting. Thanks a lot, Karen, for your comment and for being here. Thanks a lot, Lipika, for this very interesting talk. Maybe just like a fruit to give fruit before the people leave. In previous talk last week, we have Alexandra with us, and she highlighted how we can make a working life much better, more inclusive. But she highlighted one point: to consider ourselves. We need to consider the people who are working with us by looking into ourselves and see why we should include ourselves into their system, into their way of thinking. Today, Lipika actually presented the same major umbrella, but with different point of view, mainly about the mechanism that the company or the government or the managers in general can do in order to consider such inclusivity in the working environment. Good. So thanks a lot for this very interesting talk, and we hope that we will find more space for collaboration very soon. And I would like to thank all of our colleagues here, and see you on 19th of June in our workshop, because we have a workshop in 19th of June mainly about what we got over the last 4 or 5 guest lectures. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks
Thank you
for your
very
time.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Can I take your computer?